Hello, hope I'm coming through loud and clear, and welcome to episode 6 of my Facebook Live event, Love at First Scent. Thanks very much for tuning in. If you are watching live, then please feel free to ask me questions and leave comments as we go along. If you are watching after the live broadcast, when the video remains on my Facebook page, you can leave a comment as well. I try to answer as many questions as possible. And if you are watching on YouTube, where I hope to post the video, please give me a thumbs up if you like what you're seeing, and you can feel free to leave a question on YouTube as well. I will try to answer every single question that comes up. Now, fingers crossed, today's broadcast will go a little bit better than the last one we did, which was in August, where if you watched it, you will remember that halfway into the broadcast, my Wi-Fi died on me. And I had to start all over again. Thanks very much to everyone who stayed with me and returned for part 2 of the broadcast. I'm not going to say any more, but hopefully it won't happen again. Very, very quickly, because I suspect a lot of you already know what the idea behind these videos is. The whole point is that I gather up some of the new releases, some of the samples that have been sent my way, and I smell them in front of you for the first time, giving you initial impressions. So I can't stress enough that they are initial impressions. As we all know, perfume develops over time, and it isn't fair to draw an entire conclusion about a perfume based on an initial impression. But initial impressions are not to be dismissed either, so this isn't an entirely pointless exercise, is I guess what I'm trying to say. I've decided that I know which one I'm going to start with, but if there are any here particularly that you would like me to go through at some point during today's broadcast, which should last in the region of 3/4 of an hour to 50 minutes, something like that, if there are any here you'd like me to try, please let me know. Some of the large bottles, you can sort of see quite clearly what they are. This is a brand new one from Miller Harris. I don't know if you can make that out. There's the bright red bottle, which is just on the edge of your screens, is a new one from Michael Kors. This is a new Acqua Di Parma. We'll probably try that too. This is a new one from Dio Rose. It's these little guys here that you probably can't see. I think they are just about on your screen. These are 2 new Tom Fords. Well, they're kind of new. They're actually flankers. And this is a newish one from Wilhelm Perfumery. But anyway, without further ado, I think we should begin. So let me just make sure I've got everything. This is, I assure you, completely live and unscripted. So anything could happen. There are a lot of roadworks going on outside. Right this way to my left is a window, which isn't open. But if you hear any noises off, that's probably from the roadworks. And if the doorbell rings, I may have to deal with that. If there are all sorts of other interruptions, we'll just have to do what we can to work around them. And what I'm doing right now is just bringing my Facebook page up on my iPad to make sure that I am actually broadcasting to you. It's kind of looking okay, so I think we are good to go. And the one that I would like to start with is this one, because I received it in the post just a few days ago, and it's been all I can do to stop myself from trying it, because I'm very, very, very curious to find out what it's like. But I have been a good boy and stuck to the rules of this game and not unsealed the box. As you can see, it is the latest from L'Artisan Parfumeur, and it's called an Air De Bretagne. My French is terrible, but I guess this means air of Brittany, air meaning wind, breeze, that sort of thing. You will probably recognize from the packaging that this is one of L'Artisan's limited editions. Last year they did a Provence perfume as part of this limited edition series that's going to, unless I'm mistaken, be inspired by the landscapes, the different parts of France. So last year was Provence and this year it's Brittany. And I think we should unseal it and see what we think. The perfumer is a person whose name I'm going to mangle completely. Can you just see that? Is that in focus? She's called Juliette Karaguezoglu. Is that right? I hope that's right. Anyway, L'Artisan has long been a brand for which I have a great deal of time they went through a rebrand a little while ago. Their bottles became darker, like so, this sort of smoky grey colour, but they retained their shape. They came up with a new logo, which I suspect the camera is not... Oh yeah, no, you can see it there, which is sort of engraved onto the bottle. Anyway, let us see what we make of this. Let me get a blotter. While I'm doing that, if you feel like giving me any likes or things like that on Facebook as we're watching, please feel free to do so. Very much appreciated. Okay. This is going to be interesting. So here we go. Oh, okay. It's ozonic to start with, which is always a bit worrying. But very, very, very quickly already that ozonic note has moved into citruses. Thank goodness. I say thank goodness, not because I have anything against ozonic notes per se, but because more often than not, they are just very poorly done. Thanks very much for the thumbs up and hearts. I don't know, I need to find out whether you can see them going across your screens, but I can see them going across my screen, and they're very encouraging, but I hope you can all see that I can see them. Anyway, no, lots more coming, thanks very much. Ozonic notes. I have nothing against them per se. It's just the fact that more often than not, they are very, very poorly done. They are usually achieved using a chemical called calone, C-A-L-O-N-E, calone, which is supposed to smell of the sea, but it actually smells of a rather unpleasant alliance of seaweed and oysters. It can be used well. The point is for it to be not to be overused. As soon as you detect it, that kind of takes you out of the world of the perfume, and you can't help but smell the chemicals. I mean, I think being taken out of the perfume is the best description I could come up with. You're taken out of that image that the perfume is trying to evoke. And there is a sense of that calone being a touch overused here. But as I say, we've already gone into citruses. But I think already, just within this first minute, the perfume has set out its intentions quite clearly. Brittany obviously is a coastal part of France, quite a dramatic sort of, maybe almost a grim coast. There is nothing of Provence Mediterranean glitz or glam about it. In fact, it's almost the antithesis of Provence. So this, I suppose, is trying to smell bracing and outdoorsy, and encouraging you to wrap up warm as you go for a walk along the cliffs. Completely the other side of the spectrum from languishing on a beach sipping a cocktail during the summer, if you see what I mean. Which immediately in my mind raises the question of why this is being released now, because it feels like it's a little bit late in the year for this sort of fragrance. On the blotter, because of course things can be quite different on skin, this is not coming across as especially multifaceted. I'm still thinking ozonic notes, marine notes, citruses, and by citruses I mean maybe something that feels a little bit like a cross between lemons and limes, so not sweet citruses, quite sharp, tart citruses. And something vaguely, generically woody in the base. And not a lot else. Oh dear. So is this is, I don't think this is going to be love at first scent, but maybe it's going to be come back to it on a slightly different day and see if I change my mind about it. I don't have a huge amount of material on this scent, because some of you will know as well that I like to read the press releases, because they're always worth a chuckle or two, but I don't have an official press release for this one, you will be relieved to know. Although that's not fair actually, because L'Artisan press releases tend to be quite quite direct and quite straightforward and quite helpful. What I can tell you is that it's meant to be a woody aquatic fragrance. Yeah, fine, we get the woods, we get the aquatic notes. Top notes of bergamot and citruses. Well, bergamot is a citrus. Middle notes are cologne and neroli. Possibly, not particularly prominent. Base notes are cypress, ambergris, cedar, and seaweed. Let's hope the rest of this broadcast is a bit more inspiring. I think with these sorts of perfumes, which are there's nothing offensive about this, but if the first few minutes are anything to go by, it's also not going to be especially memorable. It does what it does in competent fashion, and I just always think, why bother? I can't help thinking why perfume brands would go to the effort of, commissioning a perfumer to produce something that doesn't stand out in any special way. If I smelt this in a shop and if I was very seriously considering buying a perfume, I'd shrug and I'd move on. Now, did L'Artisan, the people at L'Artisan, believe that there was a gap in their portfolio for a perfume like this? I can't imagine that being the case. They've got much more interesting, light, fresh scents. But maybe they're thinking that this is the direction in which the consumer is heading. And Brittany is about a lot more than just the sea. I mean, Brittany is the land, and am I getting Brittany and Normandy mixed up? But that part of France anyway, you could have done something with fruit, you could have done something with cuisine, because the food in that particular part of France is especially good. So, disappointing, I think. We'll put that one there. And I shall leave my blotter here. We can come back to the blotter later on. Feel free to ask questions, leave comments. Let me know if you have a favourite perfume from L'Artisan. And I think we just better move on and hope we find something a little bit more inspiring. I'm going to go for this one. I'm going to go for the new one from Acqua Di Parma. Now, if you don't recognise this particular Acqua Di Parma bottle design, then don't worry. That's because this is one of their exclusive releases. In the UK, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, they're available only at Harrods. And this is the fourth from this exclusive range. You can see they're called Notte di Colonia, Cologne notes, but the notes reference also ties in with music, as we might find out if I read you the press release. And this is the fourth one from this exclusive range. I'm not over familiar with the first three at all. Perhaps you are. But let's try this one and hope for something better. Standard, lavish Acqua Di Parma packaging, but I daren't move it, because I think if I do, I will just ruin the rest of this display. Anyway, let's see what this is like. So, Notte di Colonia, number 4 from Acqua Di Parma. Oh, now that does start off more promising. Okay, this is interesting. It's fascinating, because the first thing I'm getting actually is that well-known citrus woody Acqua Di Parma cologne signature, and I wonder if that's deliberate. I wonder if they've put an aspect of that into this one, and indeed perhaps the first three. But it's a lot richer. It feels as though there is definitely a floral note of some sort, maybe rose. I wouldn't say a white floral, could be wrong. it's funny because the power of suggestion is not to be dismissed, but Acqua Di Parma is a brand we associate with elegance and sophistication. They do that sort of thing very well. You wouldn't necessarily expect a massive white floral from them, even though they do a very good magnolia. They have gone into that region every now and then, but it's still not what people think of when they think of Acqua Di Parma. The number one thing people think of is the cologne, and then some other people might think of the beautiful rose scent they do, some of the other men's scents. And sure enough, again, this is that very Italian brand of sophistication, which is to say that it really doesn't try too hard. This is luxurious but not overstated 5-star hotel, where everything is arranged just so in the bathroom, but there isn't even the slightest hint of bling. And it's not exactly chic, because I think chic has to be just a tiny bit eye-catching to warrant the term chic. This is elegant, which I think is slightly different. And I know I don't like talking in terms of gender when it comes to perfume, and I know a lot of you also don't particularly like talking in terms of gender, but this feels feminine. It's almost like they decided to do a feminized version of their cologne with the addition of a floral note. It's very, very likable. It's very likable. Just effortless. It's really not trying very hard at all, but it's managing to come across as very authoritative. You know, it's the person who just manages to get your attention just by kind of cocking their head to one side from across the room and raising their eyebrow, and then you know that through sheer magnetism every single other person in the room is looking at nobody but them. So I suppose it's alluring. It has got that quality to it. But in a well scrubbed way. So there's nothing. There's nothing carnal about it. No spices or cumin or anything like that. I think we ought to check out the press release. Now, for this one, I do have a slightly more substantial press release, which tells me a little bit about the range in general. So this one says that Acqua Di Parma takes inspiration from music. I hinted at that before. Just like perfume, music stimulates the senses and enhances every experience. Okay? The air tingles with imperceptible yet powerful musical and olfactory notes that resonate in our hearts and minds, moments of pure emotions that stir the senses. Yes, yes, yes. So there's a little bit here about the first three. And this one, number 4, has been inspired by Manon Lescaut by Puccini. It's a passionate and vibrant olfactory composition. Yes, all right, let's get to something concrete. A fragrance inspired by the intense emotions of I Have Never Seen Such a Woman, the aria that rapturously describes love at first sight, the moment of attraction when all the senses are heightened and excitement grows and grows until it explodes in ardent passion. No. I like it, but it's not that. Thanks to its powerful sensual notes. No. The fragrance evokes the awakening of this feeling and the passion that conquers the senses and the soul in an increasingly persistent and captivating crescendo. The aria is the musical tale of falling in love, the encounter between a man and a woman, the vision of beauty and all its powerful sensuality. No, this is actually a relationship that has stood the test of time, and the couple are in that blissful state where they've sort of gone past that first rush and they've gone into a sort of deeper level of sensuality that is miles away from that first explosion. So, interesting. Like I said, I'm liking this so far, but I do not smell what they're describing here. Very quick questions. Miranda's asked, which Acqua Di Parma is this? Because you just got here. Well, thank you very much for making it. This is part of their limited range, and it's called Notte di Colonia number 4. Puccini's opera is based on the novel written in 1731, reworked as a modern and compelling story, etc., etc. Don't really need to bother with that one. Okay, here's something a little bit more concrete, perhaps, that I can tell you. So, apparently, the top notes, like an enigmatic glance that arouses feeling. I talked about the glance from across the room. There you go. The sparkling and luminous notes of green mandarin and bergamot are the vivacious and enthusiastic spark that introduces the fragrance's sophisticated bouquet. I'll go with sophisticated bouquet. I mean, those are the sorts of terms that I was using. In the heart, feminine beauty is a powerful and irresistible force. Thank you for that. The deep, intense heart of the fragrance becomes ever more harmonious as honeyed notes of Turkish rose caress the intensely floral notes of orange blossom. Okay, Smaranda, thanks. I'll replay the beginning for sure. I love this series. Thank you very much. Very kind of you to say so. Give me a like and a thumbs up then if you like it very much. And so we had rose and orange blossom. Fine, definitely go along with rose. And in the base, a love with the power of eternity is purposefully sealed by the captivating and delicately mysterious base of sweet myrrh, patchouli, and cistuslabdanum. So the other thing as well that we should have said is that these are not traditional colognes. This is not Acqua di Parma trying to do another variation of cologne, as they, for instance, have done with their new Colonia Pura, which is doing the rounds at the moment. This is classy stuff. It's those sorts of terms. I don't get initial explosions, heart palpitations, nothing like that. There are no Mills and Boon moments here. This is something deeper and more meaningful, to which I would very much like to return. So well done, Acqua di Parma. We're liking this one. Right, for something completely different. So those were two which I genuinely, hand on heart, had not tried before, but I'm going to do one of my regular little cheating things because I absolutely desperately want to show you two that I have tried before, which are part of a range of 9 that I've spent only a little bit of time with, not masses of time yet, so I can't vouch very much for what their dry downs are like, but they are so exciting, certainly for the first few hours. And it's a range that not very many people know about yet. I don't think it's available in very many countries. I think really the best place to get hold of the scents is perhaps online. But so if you want to be ahead of the game a little bit and start checking these things out before other people have, then this is your opportunity to find out about them. I don't have full bottles, but I'm sure you could look up what the bottles look like online if you would like to do so. I'm just going to quickly answer a question and read this one. Good to see you live again. Thank you very much. Good to be live. Joe, were you talking about the new line Nota di Colonia by Acqua di Parma? Yes, I was talking about number 4. So maybe when the broadcast finishes, you can kind of go back and watch that one. But the basic verdict on number 4 is that, yes, it probably might be love at first sight. But we're on to these. These are from... The vials keep popping out. From Parfums Quartana. Can you see that? And they are a sub-range of Parfums Quartana, which are called, here's French again, Les Potions Fatales, or Fatal Potions. Okay? And there are 9 of these Fatal Potions. And unless I'm mistaken, the whole idea behind these is that they are based on poisonous flowers, or maybe it's just poisons, but I think it might be poisonous flowers, which is why they're quite simple, rectangular bottles are made of blue glass, because way back when people did these sorts of things, they tended to keep their poisons in blue bottles. If you like your scents large, brassy, witchy, that is the word that kept coming to my mind as I was smelling them. I mean, if you kind of fancy yourself as one of the witches in Macbeth, stirring up these wicked potions, you have to check out this brand. I spent a bit of time with them this morning, and I think I sprayed each and every one on a blotter maybe about 4 hours ago, and I found myself going back to them again and again and again because they are very, very, very compelling, very Moorish. And I would quite happily go through all of them if we had the time, but obviously we're not going to do that because I want to be fair to some of the other things that are here. But I would very much like to show you 2 of them. And having said that, actually, I wonder, would you at all be interested in if I did a sort of video where I did just focus on one brand, particularly if it was a new brand, like from this Potion Fatale range. There are 9 scents, so maybe one day I ought to do a video where I just do a sort of showcase of the 9 scents from one brand, or however many there are from that brand. Have a think and let me know if you think that might be a good idea, whether that would be overkill. I'd like to start first of all with Hemlock. So let me just label my blotter. These are wicked in the best sense of the word. And I'm just really impressed that this whole concept, the whole idea, the vision of presenting poisonous flowers has been carried through so successfully. The creative director, who's also the owner of the brand, has actually commissioned different perfumers, and he obviously knows exactly what he wants, because even though he has commissioned different perfumers, he's managed to get all of them to produce something that adheres to his vision, and that's quite a feet. Smaranda said, yes, that would be great, the more videos the better. Okay, fine. I'll try and do that. It's always just finding the time, and the inclination is most certainly there, but finding times that work for everybody. And actually, having said that, if you think that there might be some days better than others or some times better than others, do let me know. I've only ever done one video at the weekend. If weekends are better for you guys, let me know and we can try and find a mutually convenient time. I've gone for 3:30 today because it means that maybe people over on the other side of the Atlantic in the United States are able to tune in, because I know on my blog I have a lot of readers from the US as well, so it's trying to juggle all of those sorts of things. But of course the great thing is that you don't even have to watch it live. You can watch it after it's been broadcast, you can watch it on YouTube, etc, etc. Anyway, Hemlock from Parfums Quartana. Already this is wafting up to me. This is just sort of take your time, take a deep breath, shut your eyes, leave me alone in a room with this, and no need for any more words. This is very, very poetic, Hemlock. I almost feel like I need to start sort of talking a little bit more quietly now, because I am under the spell of this stuff. The poison is already working its magic on me. And I just thought, I've said the word poison lots of times, which of course makes us think of Dior. And one of the reasons I like Hemlock so much is that it reminds me, oh, there you go. Alison has just very kindly said, I got out of bed in Texas just for this. Thank you so much, Alison. You're my favourite person at the moment. I don't know what the time difference is between me and Texas, but let me know if actually my doing this like an hour later or half an hour later might have made things easier for you, Alison. So I hope you're enjoying this with a morning cup of coffee or whatever it is that you like to have. But where was I going with this? So Poison, Dior, and this reminds me of another beautiful perfume by Dior called Dune, which I'm sure a lot of you will know. Nowhere nearly as well known as Poison, but it deserves to be something that everybody's tried. Dune is based on a very, very unusual kind of accord between florals and marine notes, but seriously well done marine notes, and a kind of white chocolatey vanillic feel. Chanel, I want to say Chanel Allure has got a similar kind of vibe, and Hemlock from Parfums Quartana, from the Fatal Potions, has got a similar feel to it. This is perfume as texture. This is plush. You sink into this. You know, if it were an object, you'd sort of place your hand on it, and when you take your hand away, you would see the indentations of your hand in it. It has a real pliable softness to it, but you kind of want to embrace it, you want to lean into it. There is a sweetness to it, but absolutely not overdone. But there is this gorgeous sense of danger to it as well, which just draws you in. It's really, really good work so far. Smaranda's saying, I remember June, of course. I used to wear it many years ago in what now feels like another life. Yes, it's funny that, isn't it? How even something that wasn't really that long ago, because we're not talking in the grand scheme of things about that many years ago when June was around, but yes, it can feel like it was another lifetime. And I wonder if you'd be reminded of that stage in your life if you wore June now. One of my oldest friends from school days, actually, whom I haven't seen for a long time, her signature has been June just forever, and she just keeps stocking up on as many bottles as she can, and it still just works so beautifully on her. June is fantastic. June is it's romantic and it's sad at the same time, and still a real original. Now, this is by no means a carbon copy. I'm not trying to say that they've just gone in and copied June. What this has, for instance, that June doesn't have is this sense of danger. There are these witchy claws just hiding in the background, and you kind of think if you get in too close, maybe you'll never be able to escape again, but actually maybe you don't mind, maybe you want to be in this embrace. Now, the press notes for these perfumes are good fun as well, because they seem to have everything but the kitchen sink, which is always a good thing. So, Hemlock. The perfumer for this one is somebody with whom I'm not particularly familiar, somebody called Christelle Laprade. Hope I'm saying that right. So in the press notes we have a quote from Rose Kennedy. Socrates gave a lot of advice, and he was given hemlock to drink. They characterized this perfume as a green, oriental, synthetic, woody, spicy. Okay, but not over green, in the same way that the Dune also very much has green facets to it, but it's not a galbanum green, it's not a Chanel No. 19 green. What do they say about it? In ancient Greece, hemlock was used to execute condemned prisoners, the most famous being the philosopher Socrates. The word itself derives from the Greek word konas, meaning to whirl about, as its effect is vertigo and death. Hemlock itself is a delicate, small white flower that grows in green grassy fields, and thus we started with this idea as the backdrop for the fragrance, but added a black vinyl accord to suggest a wicked black liquid. Hey, Mr. DJ, put a record on. Okay, I'm not thinking of records, but I don't care. I don't particularly want to think about records. Now, what's great about this brand is that their list of notes may as well just be a list of tons of perfumery ingredients, so it does start becoming a little bit meaningless when they name every single thing under the sun, and I'll tell you what I mean. So here we go. This is the list of notes from the brand. This contains Martinique rum, pink pepper, Calabrian bergamot, crushed leaves, glossy white floral accord, cinnamon bark, clove buds, jasmine sambac, styrex pyrogene, black vinyl accord, black magnolia, cyclamen, salt accord, benzoin, vanilla bean, suede, sandalwood, patchouli, tonka bean, musk, and masculine amber woods. Did you get that? Would you like me to repeat them? Can you tell me what the sixth one on the list was? But it has to be said, it does smell wonderfully rich. I sprayed all of them in another room in the house, all 9 on blotters, and then I left the room, and when I came back, it was just like stepping into this wall of delicious poison. You know, you were quite happy to be overcome by these wicked toxins. And I think we should just move on straight to the other one, because where Hemlock is perhaps seductive, I suppose, Smaranda says, wow, Tom Ford would be jealous of that list of notes. Yeah, I think he would. Fair point. Watch out, Mr. Ford. Now, the other one is, this one is really quite unusual. It's called Wolfsbane, and I confess I didn't know what Wolfsbane was until I started reading up about it. Let me just quickly label my blotter. While I'm doing that, what you are watching, folks, in case you have just tuned in, is episode 6 of my Facebook Live series, Love at First Scent, where I go through new scent releases and give you my first impressions of them. If you are watching live, thank you very much. Please consider giving me thumbs up and hearts, etc., because they are very much needed and appreciated. If you have a comment or a question, please feel free to leave one. But even if you're not watching live, if you're watching after the fact, after the broadcast, feel free to leave a comment because I will try to answer them. And what I also try to do is stick these videos on YouTube a few days after the Facebook broadcast. So if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel, please give me a thumbs up, and please ask a question, because I would love to know what you think of this series and what you think of some of the scents, and whether you have any suggestions for what I might do in the future. Coming up, Wolfsbane from Parfums Quartana. Thank you very much indeed for all the thumbs up flashing past. I do appreciate them. Right, Wolfsbane. Again, I feel like I need to concentrate because these scents really are attention worthy. See, this has got the most fascinating top note because it's ginger, and ginger is a perfumery ingredient. Yes, okay, it's not particularly common, but there are lots of perfumes out there that do use ginger. For example, the new Tuiles d'Hermès from Hermès, about which I am trying to write a blog post at the moment, so watch out on the blog for my thoughts on Tuiles. So, yes, it's ginger, but I love it when I'm stumped for words, because it means that the perfume's really making me think. It's really doing something different. It's not an especially fizzy ginger like you might find in other perfumes when ginger is being used. So it's not especially effervescent, but it's recognizably yellow, recognizably biting. It's earthy. It feels like maybe ginger that has been peeled very coarsely, very roughly, and you've got the ginger juice all over your fingers, but you've also got some of the mud from the peel, and it all just feels a little bit rough and a little bit dangerous again, and treacherous. Lecherous. Yes, treacherous, lecherous, and kindless. There you go. And yet you want more. I think that's the... A friend once said, and I think she actually wrote on her perfume blog back in the days when she kept a perfume blog, that for her, some of the best perfumes are ones that teeter on the edge of whatever. So they either teeter on the edge of being sweet, sour, quiet, loud. Those perfumes that just manage to be like this knife edge. And these ones do that, because if they were really evil to the point of nasty, then you wouldn't be interested in listening to what they have to say. But they just tease you with this wickedness, and it's really, really, really enticing. But anyway, I didn't even get past ginger, did I? Sorry, all of that was just about the ginger. Wolfsbane, I will read to you about Wolfsbane in a sec. I have no idea if Wolfsbane even smells of anything, but what I'm getting from this is earthy, muddy, autumnal brown leaf notes, like this pool of ginger that you just kind of sink your hands into, and your fingers are all coated with this noxious but beautiful stuff. I'm really, really excited about this range, and I can't wait to wear them all properly and try them all. And as far as I know, they don't even have a retailer in the UK. So you guys ought to go on their site, order some samples, and just spread the word, because this is a brand that deserves to do well, if the initial impression is anything to go by. Anyway, Wolfsbane. The perfumer is somebody called Philippe Paparella Paris. And it again, the press notes start with a quotation. The lolling weeds of leather, green or wan, exhale their fatal languors on the light. From out infernal grails of aconite, poisons and dews are proffered to the dawn. Discuss. Apparently, Wolfsbane is the common name for aconite. Bet you didn't know that. Originally used in the West for exterminating wolf populations. That's fantastic. How can you not love a perfume that is based on a material that was used to get rid of wolves? Originally used in the West for exterminating wolf populations, Wolfsbane was used in the Far East for hunting and warfare by poisoning arrow tips. Hit me with your poison arrow. We wished to imbue the fragrance with this animalic ferocity to reflect virile rage, but complemented with rich woods and luxurious black truffle. Okay, so maybe that's where the earthiness comes from, and I suppose there is a kind of oily, slightly fungal quality to it. So yeah, I can go along with the truffle idea. To give it a psychedelic twist, the heart note is wormwood, the basis for the hallucinogenic liquor absinthe. Okay. And absinthe, of course, makes me think of the Amouage perfume, and this is going to be really bad. I won't remember which Amouage is the one based on absinthe. I think it's Memoir. Can somebody help me out with that? Because, of course, the irony is that while I'm on the internet broadcasting live, I can't check anything out on the internet. I think it's Memoir. I think if you wanted an absinthe perfume, Memoir from Amouage, if it is Memoir, probably does it better than this one. But never mind, this isn't trying to be absinthe. But yes, there is a kind of sharply boozy quality to it. And here comes the list of notes, which it has to be said is more modest than the previous one. So this supposedly contains angelica root, fig leaf, cumin seed, ginger root, absinthe, patchouli, cedarwood, tuberose, tobacco flower, castoreum, benzoin, sandalwood, prunol, vetiver, deer tonk, and black truffles. Prunol, a lot of you will know, is the very, very famous perfumery base, which has found its way into opium and femme and Féminité du Bois from Serge Lutens. I wrote about perfume bases for the Perfume Society's Scented Letter magazine. You can only read them if you're a member of the Perfume Society, but if you're not, you ought to consider joining and then get the back issues of the Scented Letter and look for my article called Ace of Bases, because you'll find out everything you need to know about bases. But I guess what I love about this one is that it's this, I guess, to go back to that idea of teetering, what it's doing here is teetering on the edge of dryness and wetness. It's humid and rain-soaked, but at the same time that ginger just kind of parches the back of your throat, and you need to kind of soak up some water from somewhere because you're worried that you're going to end up being too thirsty. It is fascinating. They're really all fascinating. I need to lift them out carefully. I won't show you all of them. You know, there's one called Blood Flower, which really does have a curious metallic blood note to it. There's a really interesting take on Lily of the Valley, because even though it is recognizably Lily of the Valley, it's like no other Lily of the Valley you've ever smelt. It's again wicked and evil and noxious, and actually it's a Lily of the Valley inspired by an episode of Breaking Bad. And how many other perfume brands can you think of that would do anything based on Breaking Bad, let alone a Lily of the Valley, which is a perfume note that we associate with innocence and purity and cleanliness. So, make a note. You heard it here first. Fatal Potions, Potion Fatale from Parfums Quartana. Look them up on the net. Try and get a hold of some samples. If you like perfumery and if you like bold, unusual florals, you need to check these out. These are impressive. They're seriously impressive, and I suspect I will write about them. Okay, episode 6 of Love at First Scent here on Facebook Live, then to be posted on YouTube. Please keep coming with those thumbs up and comments. How are we doing for time? I never know how long I've been going for. Right, in the UK, I know the time is already 4:15 in the UK, which means I've been going on and on for 3/4 of an hour. So, I suppose we should just do one last one. What do you reckon? I think I feel like going for this one, which again maybe is a bit of a cheat because I did actually smell it for the first time yesterday. This is the new one from Miller Harris. I have no idea which way to hold this because my mirror... Okay, there you go. So it's called Tender. But even though I smelt it last night, I didn't smell it in... sorry, I missed a comment from Smaranda. I'm interested in anything that's intriguing and unusual and challenging. Yes, so you should check these out. But they're not challenging in a way that actually sort of makes you think, yes, these are great, but I'm never going to wear them. You know, they are wearable. And that's another thing that makes them so great, because they manage to push the envelope. But they're not museum pieces. They are completely wearable perfumes that follow the maxim that above all a perfume should just smell good. But because we only have a few minutes left, I smelt this for the first time yesterday at the official UK launch of 2 new perfumes from Miller Harris, both of them based from the same passage in F. Scott Fitzgerald's Tender as the Night. If you haven't read it, why not? You should. It's classic. Personally, I think it's better than The Great Gatsby, but I didn't say that. No, actually I did. I do think it's better than The Great Gatsby. And this one is by Bertrand Duchaufour, master perfumer who has made, well, more perfumes than I'm capable of mentioning. But the circumstances in which I smelt it last night weren't ideal, and actually quite often smelling a perfume at a launch is the least ideal way of smelling it, because these launch things tend to be noisy. There are always people chatting, having drinks. You know, while you're trying to smell, you're also trying to listen to what people are telling you about the perfume. So I can't say that I've really sat down in a quiet, contemplative state of mind and tried to explore it. So I guess it makes sense that we do it now together. So as I say, it's called Tender. In case you're interested, the other one is called Scherzo. So here we go, last one for today. See, already it's starting off much more promisingly than it did last night. I did like it when I smelt it last night, but I sort of thought, just leave me alone, put me in a bubble for a few minutes so that I can smell this quietly without all these distractions. It is a floral in essence. It is a floral, but it's inspired by the idea of a black tulip. And I interviewed the perfumer, Bertrand Duchaufour, about it last night. There was a good chance that the interview might appear on my blog. And he said that he always finds it quite challenging to convey the smell of a tulip, because A, not a lot of them have a smell, but when they do, their smell can be quite saffron-like and also quite sperm-like. And those are obviously 2 notes that you would have to be quite careful with in a perfume. A.L. Cochrane's just asked, who's the perfume house for Tender? Sorry if you didn't catch it. It's Miller Harris, the UK brand Miller Harris, that was founded and set up by the perfumer Lynn Harris, but then she sold it a couple of years ago, so Lynn Harris doesn't have anything to do with Miller Harris anymore. She set up her own brand now, another brand called Perfumer H, which actually is also well worth checking out. You ought to Google Perfumer H. But what's interesting is that the creative team that for many years was behind Penhaligon's and L'Artisan Parfumeur have moved over to Miller Harris, which may explain why they have commissioned Bertrand Duchaufour to make a perfume for them, because of course for many years he made lots of perfumes for L'Artisan and Penhaligon's, lots of the really good ones that they released in the last few years or so. Joe's asking if this is a new line by Miller Harris. I don't know if they're calling it a new line, but its packaging is quite different. Its packaging is not what we would associate with Miller Harris. Maybe this is just an overall new direction for them. I'll see if the press notes have anything to say. But let me smell this stuff. It's very faintly aldehydic. So, not Chanel No. 5 soapy champagne bubble aldehydes, but it's got sparkle. I suppose that's where the aldehydic feel comes from. And there is a kind of dark, slightly vintage floral feel to it, but on the back of those poisonous Parfum Quartana ones, it's actually interesting comparing them with this, because this is friendlier. It doesn't feel toxic and evil and wicked, but it does feel melancholy, which is great going with Tender is the Night, because that is quite a melancholy novel. And with the green notes, with maybe something just a tiny bit boozy, with a little bit of pepper. Again, it sort of creates this impression of a flower as an embrace. But whereas with the poisonous ones, you kind of sink into their embrace and you're taken over by it, this is you offering a protective embrace, if that makes any sense. So yes, this is something fragile that you want to protect, and Tender is the Night is also very much about fragility, about human frailty and fragility. So again, definitely another one to revisit and try on skin. To be very, very objective and to be fair, I must say I'm not sure if it's love at first scent, this one, but it's certainly very intriguing, and I want to wear it, and I want to give it to other people to wear. I want to smell it on them to see how it develops. Which kind of is a very obvious thing to say, because Duchaufour is so talented. I don't think he could actually make a bad perfume if he tried, honestly. I am a massive fan of his work, and I think at his worst he is really very good, and at his best he is unsurpassable. He's, for example, for Nila Vermeer, he's made at least 3 outstanding scents. I mean, the guy is a genius, a perfumery genius, and so you always want to take his work seriously and see what he's trying to do. He hasn't actually given us a tulip note since Traversée du Bosphore for L'Artisan Parfumeur, which treated tulip in a completely different way. That was tulip served with coffee and Turkish delight and tons of sweetness. Smaranda saying he is amazing. Yeah, he really, really is absolutely a genius, isn't he? Do you have a favourite Duchaufour perfume? I mean, I don't know where I'd even begin, but I suppose one that comes to mind now is his Avignon for Comme des Garçons, which is without any question my favourite frankincense perfume. I mean, it is just amazing. I love his Ashoka for Nila Vermeer. I love Trahi for Nila Vermeer. Timbuktu for L'Artisan. I mean, he's made more than his fair share of amazing perfumes. So it's almost not fair to judge him against his own standards, because, when you find out about a new Duchaufour, you kind of think, oh, is it going to be amazing? And you smell it and you think, oh, okay, it's only very, very, very good. But there's a kind of creamy, milky quality coming into this one as well. It's getting better, it's getting better. Joe says sartorial. See, interesting. Lots of guys like sartorial. I think I appreciate sartorial intellectually more than I do when I smell it. Sartorial is, I think, a fantastic example in setting out with a particular idea and seeing that idea through. But it's a fougère, and I don't know if it... I don't know. Actually, you love it. Let's just go with that. And you know what? Just to keep things positive, on one of my stepsons, it smells amazing. I don't really buy into this idea of perfume smelling very different on other people, but sometimes I kind of have to eat my words, because on this particular stepson, the metallic notes and the steam notes come out really well, and then I smell sartorial and I think, wow, this is actually pretty good stuff. So, conscious of time, I will just very, very quickly talk you through this one. So as it says, oh, actually, there you go. I didn't even know this. This wasn't mentioned at the launch yesterday. This doesn't come out until January, people. So, sorry, you can't have it yet. But in January 2018, Miller Harris London will launch 2 new eau de parfum, Scherzo and Tender, taking inspiration from F. Scott Fitzgerald's masterpiece of change and contrast, Tender is the Night. 2 perfumers have interpreted the same passage from the novel in their own way, each applying their individual artistry to translate the text into scent. Quite an interesting idea, a brave idea. I can tell you, by the way, that the Scherzo is completely different from this. I don't have a sample of it, though. I just smelt it last night. Just as we experience a novel in a uniquely personal way, the same is true of fragrance. Scherzo and Tender are separate and intimate expressions, exploring contrast and the sensual journey between darkness and light. So, of course, you're all asking, which passage from Tender is the Night? Is it? Here you go. It's this one. She walked on between kaleidoscopic peonies massed in pink clouds, black and brown tulips, and fragile mauve-stemmed roses, transparent like sugar flowers in a confectioner's window, until, as if the scherzo of colour could reach no further intensity, it broke off suddenly in midair. Must admit, that is a pretty inspirational passage. So just very quickly going over to Tender. It tells us a little bit about Duchaufour. Tender is a convergence of dark and light, following an intangible mist of blooms along white border stones. Seductive black ink tulips. Oh yes, that's right. Duchaufour went on and on about ink and wanting to bring a sense of a metallic quality with an ink note. I have to say, I think that came across more prominently on skin. Anyway, seductive black ink tulips interspersed with light pink clouds of peonies, fragile mauve-stemmed roses, and green hyacinth. Yeah, suggestion of greenness. Gold and saffron, geranium flowers, and leather provide a beautiful prelude to a lingering trail like innocence melting away, with frankincense, storax, sandalwood, patchouli, and musk. Which is probably as good a note as any on which to finish. Now, regular viewers will know that usually about sort of 3-4 hours after the initial broadcast, I put up a little update in the comments section to tell you how the blotters have developed, to actually give you some indication of how the scents work a few hours after they've been sprayed. So at some point you might like to come back and see what I've written there. But for now, thank you very much indeed for watching. By the way, in case you're wondering, Barbara Alavi is my mum. Thank you very much for watching. She says, so many new names for me. Glad that perfume business brings always interesting things and is so alive. Love it. Yeah, so do I. So please keep the thumbs up, etc. coming. Thank you very much for watching. The video will remain on Facebook, so you can always come back to it, play it back from the beginning if you need to. And if you've watched on YouTube, thank you very much. Please feel free to leave a comment and let me know if there's anything else you would like me to cover. But for now, ladies and gents, have a great weekend.